Scientists have indicated that Ted Nugent's recent acquisition of the coronavirus may finally be the progenitor of that fourth wave that everyone has been speaking about. I say this because many people have attributed cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle, body aches, headaches, sore throat, congestion, and diarrhea to seeing his loincloth move. Well, if you wanted honesty, you've come to the wrong place. This is the kinder and gentler Disinformed podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Courtney.
So I was told...
Michael's dead.
The indication from last week's show is that John and I talk too much. So...
What? Really?
You're up, kids. Enjoy making content.
What
So
three people said that?
Yeah, I really have to say, because, I mean, the alternative is Courtney speaking more, which is understandable. I can understand people wanting that. But then the other alternative is that I speak more?
No. Courtney had indicated the two of you are going to start your own podcast because the show is predicated on John and I just running at the mouth. So...
She says that, and...
I'm tapping out this week.
She says that, and then she realizes that it's me that she's talking about. And then she gets silent.
Oh, our podcast is called Awkward Silence. Michael and I just stare at each other.
Yeah, do you want to play a sample of your first episode real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, here we go, guys. Here's breaking news. Here's first look at the spin-off podcast.
And he's Michael. All right, thanks. That was our first episode.
So that was an interview with local celebrities.
Yeah.
We didn't get to catch their names, but the subtext is there, so you can probably figure it out based on the breathing.
Actually, really, no, that's Country Brothers episode 3.
Oh, no.
No, I actually listened to episode 1, and I found it very entertaining.
Country Brothers is really fun.
They're marvelous folks.
What's funny to me is that I haven't met Dewan's... I think I met Dewan's brother maybe once or twice, but I've never been able to sit down and chat with him. So it's really interesting to see what Dewan would be like if Dewan lived in L.A.
Exactly.
I almost want to know, but I almost don't.
Listen to the fucking podcast. It's so good.
I could.
It's nice to hear somebody bully Dewan. That has the license to do so.
Because when I do it, he calls me the White Devil, so...
I mean, you are.
We all are.
Well,
I hate to break it to you.
Before I was just sprung upon that Shane and I are going to be Silent Bobs this week, I was going to tell Shane that I'm finally getting to 1408, and I'm briefly just started listening to it right before we started recording, but I guess that's a moot point. So tune back in next week to hear more about that, hopefully.
I'm still mystified as to who said that.
It was me. I did.
Why? You said that they...
I was giving them a hard time because they do this music thing where they go down this hole and you sit there glazed over like you're a dead fish.
Oh, and I was thinking a donut, but okay.
No, like a dead fish that's been in the ice for too long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I was making fun of them for that, and so Shane's turning it on me now.
Yeah, I have a character
Just
flaw.
Kiss.
Just one.
The tension is too much for me at this point. I'm going to need to see some action.
So Michael had a bad day. Shane had a bad day. How was your day, John?
I was good. It was fine.
Now you know how it feels when you're like, so how's everyone?
I got a haircut. I listened to some books. I have another rat in the house that I just got a trap delivered so that I can...
She has a name.
I named this one Steve. First one's Wilbur. The sequel is Steve.
Wow, your new porn films are going to be entirely more engrossing than your previous ones, I'll say that.
You won't believe where this one ends up.
Well, everybody in your house is just cheese on a board.
You guys ever seen Too Fast, Too Furious?
No.
What? It's
I
peak
like
cinema.
good movies.
So there's
I've never seen any of them.
So there's this scene where they're like the crime boss is trying to
Go fast or furious?
Yeah, he's furious in the scene, and he's trying.
Oh God, just shoot me
He's
now.
trying to get
Furious?
information out of somebody, and what he does is he puts a rat on the guy's belly, covers it with a pan, and then he starts heating it with a blowtorch because the rat's going to scurry and he's going to crawl through the guy's belly. And that's just a brief preview of the kind of content that we are cooking up for our OnlyFans. So at the end of this episode, see the links below. And then actually it's onlyfans.com/idiot. That's where you can find our OnlyFans page.
So what we usually do here on this glorious podcast is we will dive into a random esoteric topic just to stop one another from vomiting out of their faces. And, occasionally we like to make up some bullshit. It may or may not be interesting, just depending upon who's present. But this week, Courtney's going to smash it out of the box and save us from any of this inane nonsense from continuing beyond this very moment. Take it away, kid.
I don't wanna.
I say that transition was too fast and too furious.
I like your stranglehold joke better.
Yeah, there is a tint of aggression to the kindler, gentler, disinformed Shane.
I'm not the only one. It's very difficult to get through kinder and gentler without trying to interject an L into the word kind.
Kindlier, gentlier.
Because I did it multiple times. So it turned to kindler, gentler at least 4 times that I said it, and apparently it's catching.
I feel like that's just the Arizona school system.
You'd hope.
Amen.
I've seen emissaries of that particular educational system, and I can guarantee is no one learning anything.
I think there are a few people on this session that are direct proof, myself including.
Yeah.
Michael's also here.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, if you want me to give you any of my observations from today, other than the fact that I'm gargling razor blades, it is... I watched in light of current circumstances, which I'm very glad that we're moving the direction we are, I watched George Floyd die again today. And I am boiling with rage because I needed to remind myself where we've been to get to this point. And I'm perfectly contented with hitting the button right now and just ending this experiment before it gets any more out of hand. Because there are some reprehensible and disgusting monsters masquerading as human beings out on this planet, and I don't need to be reminded of that. But when I am, it sure makes me glad that we think we're the dominant species on the planet. Because I can't wait for somebody to just brute fuck us into inexistence.
I can't say that I am surprised that you feel that way after watching that video again. Because it's...
Yeah.
All I can say is all 3 counts. Go and fuck yourself. Hope you die horribly in prison. Bye. I feel like I have a very weird spin from this, and then maybe then Courtney might feel inspired to go on with her topic for the day, and hopefully it's happier and brighter.
I was about to say, good luck with the dismount on this one, friend.
Okay, so. On Monday, I went to Alamo again for the first time since I saw Tenet. See, it's all about me, guys. No.
Yay, John.
You've gone to the Alamo for the first time, I think, like 3 or 4 times.
That's because the world ended, fuckface.
4 times?
Count
he keeps
it.
getting to have a first time over and over. It's his dream.
I'm a virgin forever.
Oh, the OnlyFans makes more sense.
It's kind of like if I lost my virginity and then I got saved by Christianity and then I became an atheist again and then I lost my virginity again and then I got saved and I got my virginity back. I'm just in a virginity cycle. But
yeah, well, I mean, you got many different cherries to pop, right? You have the anal cherry, you have the normal cherry, you have the earlobe cherry, you have mouth cherry, nostril cherry.
What about the mouth fairy?
Mouth fairy? Well, I mean, that's an entirely separate subject.
Okay. Well, Lister Fiend aside.
New band name, Mouth Fairy Cherry.
I feel like they tried that and it didn't really work. But what I saw at Alamo, so I decided, now that I'm vaccinated, that I want to go and do things. I want to try and start incrementally recreating as much normal life or pre-COVID life that I can. And if I want if I want to, I need to support the businesses that I love. That's just, there's not a lot of businesses that I do love. Anyway, Alamo showing 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've never seen that movie in my entire life. And I went on Monday, and Shane didn't warn me, but Shane said I was in for a treat or of some sort. Or I think Shane warned me that it's a slow burn, which it definitely is. I also realized how much that movie influenced all of the content that I love. It had, like, by the end of the movie, I was like, okay, I want to rewatch this movie, because there's so many things that those movies reference back to 2001. And Shane's dying. Why?
All the content that you love has a very broad spectrum, including an array of pornography that the world heretofore has been intolerant of. So now I've got the stone obelisk from the beginning of the film with all of the random sort of like apes dancing around it. And I was like, yeah, this is the kind of porn I can see you watching. Tribal worship of a giant phallic object.
Do you know what the obelisk reminds me of? And by the way, if you guys haven't seen 2001, sorry, because there's going to be references real quick, but the obelisk reminds me of Night Vale.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was like, that's definitely so. The dog park or there is an obelisk episode too, where I don't know. I could see a lot of the things that I love in that movie, and I know that movie changed the landscape forever when it was released.
Certainly.
I also had the realization that my love for A24 probably stems from people being influenced by Kubrick, and then starting a production company releasing only movies that are Kubrick-esque or influenced by that style. That's like not, it doesn't give everything away. Like, it leaves a lot to your own interpretation. So that being said, I did the same thing with 2001 that I do with any art housey movie, which is I let someone else explain it to me. You know, like, I like to look up Reddit or look up film critics or reviews and just kind of see other ideas floating around. And there was a really poignant point that one of the film critics had made, that the whole movie is about how we make tools to be destroyed by.
Okay.
Because the movie starts,
I can see that,
at the dawn of man with the apes, with an ape finding out how to use a bone as a club. And then the next shot, like, so the club goes up into the air because he throws it up in the air. And then there's an iconic shot where in mid-turn it shows a spaceship, and you get, time jump to 2001. And they've created space. It's a whole big thing.
They created space.
They created space.
That part.
Yeah, but there's also that iconic Hal.
Hail?
Go ahead, Shane. You're wanting to kill me, and I want to let you.
Hail.
No, I'm just gonna be a kinder and gentler Shane.
Kindly or gentlier.
I want you to finish your statement.
Essentially, I agree that we create things to destroy us, and that's basically how subconsciously I've felt that for a while. But then seeing that on paper and seeing that movie, I was like, yeah, that's really true.
We are the architects of our own demise.
Yeah. So this has been a positive episode, and my verbal diarrhea aside, I got an email before we started rolling, or we got an email, and the header was, "Michael, don't fucking spoil this for yourself. Just listen to the episode and read this after." And it was from Courtney with her sources. I don't know what we're going to be hearing today.
Neither do I, because I saw that. I showed it to my girlfriend for a giggle, the header, and I did not open it.
Courtney
showed your girlfriend the header,
and she was unimpressed.
That's what they call it nowadays. And she was like, "No, not interested. Not hungry. Thanks." No, the notification that shows like the subject line of the email.
Explain it to me again, Ricky.
I'm sorry. I don't understand sarcasm right now. My migraine's telling me to, fuck off. Anyway,
Courtney.
Michael, have you ever watched the It Crowd or the IT Crowd? It's a British comedy.
No, but I know of it.
I just want you to know that you're Maurice, and that's all I have to say.
As long as it isn't, is he like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory?
I will send you a compilation of some of his greatest clips, and you will understand. Or you'll be offended. I don't care.
Because that's fair. No one does. But I don't even care. But I for the longest time, ever since I told people that I studied physics, they'd be like, "Oh, so you're Sheldon?" I'm like, "No, I'm more well adjusted to society than him. Not much, Shane. Kind of gentler.
This episode's going to make no sense to anybody who's watching, just listening to the audio alone. Because, yeah, I feel like it's purely facial expressions for me tonight.
Fair. But, so whenever someone's like, oh, you might be this person, I immediately am like, is this a compliment or not? Just because someone's like, oh, yeah, you're Sheldon. I'm like, I watched the pilot. I don't like that comparison. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
John, you were saying?
Oh, I was just trying to segue onto the show so that we could actually do the fucking show.
Oh.
Speaking of the fucking show.
I already did it. I did it like 20
Yeah.
No,
minutes
I
ago.
was leading into Courtney. Yeah, I know you already did the lead in, and then we did some more word vomit.
Is this
for a
our
bit.
first deleted episode?
Yeah,
We're
this
getting
is-
there. I'm not kidding, folks. Like, this is not me being an asshole or trying to be vindictive. It hurts to talk. And I've been doing it now ad nauseum for 2 straight days. And I have 2 straight days more to do it, including trying to sing and trying to record an audiobook. So, and that's not just our ridiculous nonsense. So I'm trying not to just sit here and gargle my soul out of my body. And yeah, so this is not intentionally me just putting my middle finger up at y'all. I wanted
that
everybody else to talk for once.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I felt like I really missed something. So with that context, makes a lot more sense. I just thought that I was like, what did I fucking do? Like, I just got onto the session and got my shit
it had nothing
kicked
to do
in.
with you. No, I wasn't even kicking your shit in. Please keep this. You're perfectly fine. I was joking because Courtney and I were talking about us doing 2 3-hour sets in the same week. And she said, whose genius idea was that? And I was like, oh, it's John's. Because, he's not prone to having to, do octaves as often as I am. So, yeah, I was not insulting you by saying that the range is I sing out of my natural speaking voice, which is not wise, and 2, is probably causing me vocal scarring. Which means that after I speak for a significant amount of time, my voice starts to shut down. Which means also singing for prolonged lengths, why I have to separate songs of ours from each other. Because if I hit certain notes repetitively, my vocal cords start freezing up, which is not healthy and is really cool. And I'm probably going to wind up not being able to speak at some point if I push it. So, long story short, too fucking late, is that I'm trying to take better care of myself. And I thought a year of vocal rest might help, and it hasn't. So mostly I'm just, snorting things back down my throat and feeling everything kind of clog up and back up because I've been doing nothing but just talking consistently, trying to train somebody who has been added to my team, which is great. And it's part of my job, but to then now go on and let's do another 3 hours of me talking and do another 2 hours of me talking tomorrow and then sing for a couple hours. I'm probably going to be dead by the end of the week. So this is me conserving because the episode, I don't have to dance as much as Courtney has indicated. I don't need to talk all the time. I can let y'all be funny. So I'm doing that so that when we have to do the goddamn My Immortal episode, I can get through that and not want to kill myself.
That makes a lot more
as
sense.
much.
I just figured you were off on having a normal off day, but it's more than a normal.
Thank you for clearing the air so that I'm not just constantly thinking, trying to mentally inventory.
But it's like,
I said hello to him yesterday. That pissed him off. Shit.
I love that our 2-minute sidebar before John got on devolved into this. This is so funny.
But see, unfortunately, that's what I'm saying. I have some major character flaws, not the least of which being that usually I manifest my rage internally. And so rather than screaming and yelling and throwing things like most maladjusted men, I insult myself and then start to break down psychologically. And then it turns into me being really passive-aggressively vindictive to everybody around me. Evidence being, and John will appreciate this because it supports his argument that I'm inhospitable. I had made a comment about a venue that we played at one point in front of one of our bandmates, who then said I was being melodramatic. And, because I have anxiety about being in a place that makes me uncomfortable and trying to perform. I was basically told, suck it up, Buttercup. You don't have to do a goddamn thing. So I was like, oh, okay. So you're going to devalue what I contribute to this project. All right. So I just shut up for the entire duration of the show. I didn't intro songs. I didn't make jokes. I didn't try to be entertaining. I just sat and stood by the microphone and waited for us to move to the next song. And we melted down so fast that I thought, like, this is the last show we're ever going to play. And I'll allow John to now intervene, and he can give his perspective on those events. But yeah, this is usually how I deal with being angry, is I'm like, oh, okay, motherfucker.
John, why did you say that to Shane?
Oh, it was not John.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine John saying that at all.
I don't know where we cut back in. So, Michael, make an editorial decision here. And
Oh, this is all in. Yeah, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, if Shane's good, I'm good. Also, I feel like
yeah, please,
that's the
go ahead.
first authentic moment of you going, what the fuck? on this podcast. Not a bit what the fuck or shut the fuck up, Michael, but literally like a... You guys, come on, meet me here. This is going to sound really bad.
No, go for it.
But I don't remember exactly which show because there's been like minor version. Like, was it?
Good.
It wasn't
Okay.
Last Exit, was it?
No, Last Exit took place after this.
Okay, so my role.
This was the Irene's incident.
My role usually is to try and be a compassionate and sweet lover to everybody during the show.
Oh, get the fuck out of
I'm
here.
not saying I say that that's usually my role. I'm not saying that I'm successful in that role because I don't navigate everyone's emotions really well. Which,
you are certainly far more maternal comparatively.
with everyone.
Yes.
I try and make sure that before we play, that everyone is feeling loved.
Yeah, because we are a band of neuroses. Yes.
We are around each other a lot, a familial amount, if you will, and.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell when people that you spend time with, as evidence is earlier in this episode, you can tell when somebody is off. You can tell when the energy is not there in the room or not there in your setup. And I usually would rather that not make its way into the execution phase.
Yeah, that's why I knew that it wasn't you that told him to just suck it up and that it doesn't matter.
We all know who said that. Without saying the name, we know who said that. Well, for one, we played a fair amount at that venue, and a lot of the performances were not what some would call fun.
You're entitled to not remember the exact one that I'm referring to, John. That's fine.
There's a lot of memorable stories from that place. There's a lot of booze involved, and
I've slept since then, so
yes,
it's not with me any longer.
Yeah, I really don't remember that show, and
Okay,
that's not to say that your feelings weren't valid in that moment. It's just to say that we've played a lot of shows, my friend.
Mm-hmm. We have.
Regale me. What happened? I want to remember now.
I think he already told this story succinctly.
Well, you told the story, but
we were one of the least interesting shows we've ever played was that evening, because then Sam tried to pick up the volume, and it was mostly her friends and family there, and it was just dead. You could hear crickets between songs.
Oh my God.
And we played worse. We actually, songs started falling apart in midsection.
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember because I think I made a comment to you after it that you were the magician that Patton Oswalt discusses in one of his stand-up bits.
Who just brute fuck the audience with music,
so you're
basically.
pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Here's the rabbit. Okay. And then you put it back and you're like, and this is your card. Okay. And that's how we got through the song.
Yep, it was no flourish, no, appreciable, yeah, here we go, that was fun, thank you all for being here. It was like, nope, I'm just not gonna say a fucking word.
So I think, okay, so maybe just for my mental health safety, I was blocking it out. But I think it was that night. There was also a Cornish show that we weren't all loving each other that day.
Oh man, we've had so many bad nights that it's almost like it's a wonder we're still together. That's just every band on the planet. But
there was definitely a show, I think it's when we had Genie as a cover finally, where we stopped and just restarted. No, it was Jesus Christ. We just stopped. We're like, nope. You guys looked at me like, do you want to do that right? In front of everybody? And I was like, fuck.
I think I was at that show, actually.
Fuck. Okay. But anyway,
as I said, we are not supposed to be talking right now, John, but we're talking. So
but,
here we are.
Since we're in the band nonsense, do you want to plug your show?
Sure. If you want to see us pretend to love each other,
recording on the episode, I quit. I'm done.
You want to see us pretend to love each other. May 4th at the Wandering Tortoise, 7 to 10 p.m. And then on May 8th, like Shane mentioned, in the same week, we'll be up in the beautiful Clarkdale, Arizona at Smeltertown Brewing in the evening as well.
Yes.
So.
And here's the deal. I love playing music. It is one of the few things that has managed to keep me sane over the course of my many, many, many years on this planet. So, and I'm half joking and half not, but yeah, I exist with a significant amount of pain from the fact that I am a low bass trying to exist as a fucking tenor. And so, yeah, it makes
So you're saying from here on out, when we're doing our covers, and I'm putting on, because just in case you guys don't know, pitch correction exists on everything. When I'm using autotune and it tells me to select the type of vocalist that I should try and put you in as a tenor.
I mean, I'm not sure it's going to do anybody any favors if you do that.
Okay. But yes, you definitely set yourself up for some hard times here and there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But you sound lovely.
Well, as do you.
Mostly.
Well, I retract my previous fucking compliment.
My mostly was for John.
It was just an alien joke. Okay, now that we have aired our filthy, filthy, cum-soaked laundry, speaking of cum.
Man, that's not going to work either.
Good segue. So I have 6 lies.
What are we talking about?
Oh, no, I'm just going to open this with a dramatic reading, and you're going to figure it out real quick.
Okay.
Oh, I don't like surprises.
Am I going to have to write a quick bit of music for your dramatic reading?
I mean,
yes, now that you
would,
offered,
okay.
It's playing.
Consider it done. I'll write it tonight.
Can you make it 3 hours?
It's a 3-hour intro.
No, all you need to do, so look up, there's like 4 main chords in all church music.
Oh.
Just use those 4 chords.
You want church chords?
Yep.
This is the sound of me making notes.
And it needs to be organ music.
He's playing an organ, all right.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Believing that true love waits, I make a commitment to God, myself, my family, my friends, my future mate, and my future children to a lifetime of purity, including sexual abstinence from this day until the day I enter a biblical marriage relationship.
Bullshit.
So we are talking about cum in a way.
Yes.
Or lack thereof.
So my segue wasn't bad.
No, and you talking about being a virgin over and over again was also a great segue.
So you're saying that I contribute the most to this podcast?
No.
Yeah, that's it.
Great, now his head can't fit in his room.
I'm hoping this helps John out. Just let's all take a moment and let him just soak this in.
Yay.
You know, I was going to tell you, John, it's not premarital sex if you never get married, but you ruined that, so...
I mean, I can always fix it.
So obviously I wasn't kidding when I messaged the group and I was like, hey, should I do a purity culture episode?
Fuck yes, dude.
Sweet.
So I really tried to keep this very concise because you could dovetail into a lot of different areas because it's very vast and very deep and wide. And I also thought this would be a really interesting topic because we have an ex-Mormon, an ex-Catholic, an ex-evangelical.
That's actually accurate. I've heard you talk about God before.
Oh,
a Catholic.
Pastor Kevin, no. Say you're Catholic.
I'm Catholic.
Oh, God.
Too soon? Well, we don't stand Catholic pedophilia jokes here.
Don't bite the wafer, John.
Yeah, trigger warning for religious trauma.
We're all on our way out. See yourself accordingly.
Great. So we also have Michael here, and I don't really know where he falls because I view him as an asexual,
Usually
like
into
a sea
bed,
sponge.
blackout drunk.
Where am I?
He's wearing a purity ring right now, as a matter of fact. So it's fine.
My
Stepdaddy,
body.
that's not my stepdaddy.
But yeah, I just imagine that Michael's a sea sponge, and then one day there'll be two of him, and we'll be like, "Oh shit, how did that happen?"
No, I always have to kill that one. There can't be more than one of me in this
What
world.
is there, a sandstorm?
The anemone is my enemy.
Oh, man,
Nice
this
Night
is
Vale
gonna-
reference, though, John.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yes.
So basically, I'm going to use a documentary that I watched a couple days ago. It's called "Give Me Sex, Jesus." No punctuation in that. It's literally just called "Give Me Sex,
Yes.
Jesus." Just to really
So-
try to.
Do they have documentaries on Pornhub now?
Yes. John sent me
Oh,
this.
I did.
It was a lot different than I was prepared for. I've never seen acting quite that.
You really had to crank it down to its finer points.
Yeah.
Now, wait. Are you saying this is an episode about a topic, or is this just an episode that's critiquing a fucking documentary?
Yeah, you see that YouTube commenter? We're back at it, bitch.
Yeah, so basically I use this as just kind of my basis because I like the way they laid things out. They essentially kind of start with the history of it and kind of move into how it's relevant today and kind of gives you that oversight that I think is, for me, I knew all this. I could have just wrote my personal experience, but I did decide to do a little bit more research just to give you guys a nice overview of the topic.
Well, I'm incredulous that anything was getting laid out in that particular documentary.
I am glad.
honestly.
I am glad that you
yeah.
say that, Shane, because I have a mandate for this episode, if I may,
Oh, please.
for the rest of her presentation, if you want to call.
Mhm.
Yeah. We are only allowed 2 sexual innuendos per person.
Oh, you're not going to like this.
I already spent those two.
No,
Here.
starting now.
You're also fucking
Oh.
dreaming if you think I'm
Oh,
putting a limiter
God.
on anything I do.
Ugh.
I just feel like it's about to turn into 45 minutes of dick and fart jokes.
I think
is.
it's now a race to see who can get to the fastest.
All right, game on.
I was like, Kevin Smith's entire career has been founded on this general principle. If you think we can't make it work in a podcast for an hour, then you've missed the boat, friend.
All right, well, game on.
All right, so let me give you a brief overview of the actual documentary itself. So, Give Me Sex, Jesus tells personal stories of struggle from within the evangelical community to remain sexually pure until marriage. But what happens when our body and desires do not behave? A handsome couple saves their first kiss for the altar. A gay son comes out to his famous family. A transgender man searches for authenticity, and a feminist confronts double standards. While control of desire is universal, the salvation of these people depends on it. Since the 1990s, the purity movement has been at the center of national conversation about sexuality that extends from the pew to the Oval Office. So what I liked about this documentary is it actually gave a lot of perspectives. So it wasn't just like, no, sex is evil. It had a transgender man who told his story and a gay man that came out and told his very religious parents and kind of the aftermath of that, which was a nice juxtaposition.
Okay.
Okay.
Did they actually have a gay man in the documentary?
They did.
Did they actually have a transgender
Ah,
individual?
Yes.
Sorry, if Shane's taking stabs, I'm going to take stabs.
Do people actually exist?
Are there actually people
No.
in the documentary?
Do you believe
No.
in Jesus?
Do you believe?
No.
Is there an actual
Yes.
documentary?
No. Too many
No,
questions.
there isn't a documentary. Ha
This goes all the way
would
to
you,
the top.
would you like fries with that?
Yes.
Okay. Coming right up.
Great. So one of the things I really liked about the documentary itself is it put together a timeline of things that I guess I hadn't really ever put together, and it dates purity culture all the way back to slavery, which makes a lot of sense because everything in America dates back to slavery because we're bad people
Yes,
here.
we are.
Mhm.
True that.
And one of the things they point to specifically is that because Black people were slaves, their marriages and their children were considered illegitimate. And so being white people, that was not okay. And so for that reason, another reason to not like Black people. And then once they were actually freed, immigration was the new issue. So people within purity culture saw immigrants as dirty. A lot of times immigrants went into sex work to make a living. So their children and any biracial children that they may have were considered to be, again, illegitimate, dirty. It also doesn't help that nearly half the population at the time had venereal diseases. And so having sex outside of marriage was seen as really gross. At the time, the diseases that were most prevalent were syphilis and dermatitis, which are both bacterial infections. So a lot of times, depending on where you had that infection, it was also very visible.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Very gross.
Sorry. I didn't know until recently that, like, syphilis was a huge problem. Like,
Oh yeah.
not from personal experience, but I mean, like, back in the day.
For
like,
you, or?
No, like, I've heard many stories, like, from back when, of like people that like lost their mind because of syphilis, like went fucking insane. And that's just for us living in the time that we do, where it's just like, oh yeah, I got syphilis. They're like, oh cool, here, go take this pill and don't drink beer for a day. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's because syphilis takes a long time to manifest as that insanity. So people can live their whole lives, or even if they get it later in life, they won't see those symptoms until long after they would have died.
Huh.
So it can make sense that, especially if it's something that's only really visible and you don't really notice until the act, that it could spread and be so prevalent, especially when people weren't really taking as many precautions as they
Yeah,
are
they're
now.
like, yo, if the condom is for you and the condom is for me, and they're like, well, the condom, that infringes upon my rights, you know, so I'm not going to wear a condom because that's not, you know, relevant to me. Doesn't.
Well, my penis has a medical condition.
Yeah, I can't wear a condom into this grocery
can't
store.
breathe.
Yeah, because my genitals can't breathe.
Exactly.
Mask up, Arizona.
So that's basically a brief overview of what we're looking at in the 1800s into the early 1900s. Of course, as we get more into the 1920s, we start to see that sexuality is being a little bit more embraced. Prohibition ends in the 1930s, which definitely helps with that. Interesting coincidence that alcohol and sex kind of go hand in hand when it comes to what we approve of.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, they actually see that there's a big decrease in church attendance, and that is specifically after the end of World War II. So basically, well, now that Johnny is either dead or has come back from the war, we don't really need to pray about it.
Well, also, I don't know if this is related at all, but isn't that when the atomic bomb was created, that the God is dead speech kind of happened? There was like a societal awakening of like, we have created something so powerfully terrifying that how could God exist if we could create something like this? Anyway, not kind of related, but not directly related.
I didn't know that was a full societal thing. I know that occurred with a lot of people in the scientific community because a lot of them were responsible for said creation of the atomic bomb. But I didn't know that was a full societal.
There was someone screaming at
paradigm.
the speaker right now, or at their phone, because they're like, "You're missing the point." I can't think of the person who said it, but I know that because I don't know. I'm not trying to get ahead of anything.
Are you talking about Nietzsche?
I believe maybe.
Are you talking about the God is dead from Nietzsche? However the fuck that's like a good 100 years before.
There's something said in regards to nukes. And it also kind of ties into satanic panic down the line. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Sorry for the tangent.
No, I'll have to look into that. That's really interesting. So basically, we're at the end of World War II. The church is starting to die, but don't worry. Billy Graham is on the case. He's going to yell at you about why you need Jesus. And his revivals become a really big deal. That also kind of kicks off the megachurch movement. Fun fact.
Wait, when did that happen? When did that start? In
that
the 50s
is,
and 60s?
Yeah, right around the 40s, 50s.
Is that bullshit? I thought it occurred later.
Not based
No?
on my
Okay.
research.
I guess I must
You
have.
fucking heathen.
Okay, no worries.
It may have
Apparently,
been
yeah. So
closer to the end of the 50s.
Okay.
And it went on for a long time. My dad was actually a volunteer at one of Billy Graham's revivals. And that's actually how he came to faith. Fun fact.
Oh.
Like
Huh.
came,
Interesting.
like approached faith, or coming.
No, he came in faith.
Exactly.
That was the name of the
She's real sweet.
stripper.
Yeah.
She's like cinnamon.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Cinnamon's better.
She's on stage 5 most nights.
Oh yeah,
Mostly.
that's the best stage. Sorry, I detracted too much from it. So I know a little bit. I've listened to a couple of podcasts about the rise of the religious right and the, well, that goes hand in hand.
Nixon.
Or hand on hand. But the rise of the religious right and the idea of the silent majority. But that was more in the late 60s, early 70s. So I wasn't sure if those were completely, they coincided at the exact same time, or if one led into the other. So that's why I was a little hesitant about
I
it.
feel like, to sum it up,
Sure,
our ears are all perked up right now. Where I think we may be jumping the gun just a bit.
No, it's a good point, because a lot of this and a lot of the timeline that they kind of go over, it kind of weaves in and out, where it's a cultural event and then the church tries to do something to combat it. And then there's a cultural event and then the church tries to make moves. And I'm trying to remember, I read a book recently that talked a lot about the hand that the church has played, kind of like what you were saying with the moral majority. And how much scummy behind the scenes shit they've been up to. But anyways, basically at this point now we're rolling into the 1960s. This is where we start to see a lot more dramatic social change. Black people want to be treated equally and fairly. Women are looking for more rights, all that crap. And the church is like, no, we're not really here for that. That's not really what we're going for. So they come in with another big push, especially as we go into the 70s and 80s, where we start to see the first of the Christian sex revolution. So they're really starting to push this agenda of purity, and purity is also associated with being white. So kind of throughout all of this, there is definitely a big racial component. The church has a very bad history and being on the wrong side of racial issues, and we see that a lot kind of through the purity movement as well.
For clarification's sake, just because there are a lot of subsets here, which of the capital T, the church, are we referring to?
Specifically the evangelical church.
All right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to make sure that I have clarified that amidst the other discussion for the Catholics and the Mormons and various other Lutheran faiths that may be running through here. That's important to clarify.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, more the evangelical church is kind of the basis for it, and that was the basis for the documentary as well, to kind of see things through that lens. So basically, we get the sex revolution. Meanwhile, this is the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And then we know that basically the only thing that the church hates more than premarital sex is the gays. So we're really going to double down at this point on the no premarital sex and no rights for gay people. We don't want that. So at this point, we've made it to the True Love Waits movement, which you might be familiar with. Shane, you mentioned purity rings. That's where this is going to start to come in.
I'm familiar with that from Catholicism. There's a lot of abstinence training days, if you will.
Exactly. Did any of you guys have purity rings?
It was a cock ring.
That makes sense for Catholicism.
I mean, technically, you kind of have a blanket sweep within the LDS community. They give you CTR rings, which stands for Choose the Right. And it is a constant reminder of your vows that you, essentially your relationship and covenants that you have with the Lord. So you wear that as a reminder of how to comport yourself with God's grace wherever you may be and for all the interactions you may have. So similar, but not necessarily just relegated to your sexual purity. It is your entire spiritual purity.
Do you know when that dates back to, as far as like when that started?
I would have to actually have been a good Mormon in order for that to have sunk into my brain, and I don't have an actual reference point, but I'm fairly certain this has probably been from the 70s onward, I would assume.
Okay, gotcha. So maybe the True Love Waits movement took some ideas from the CTR ring. That's interesting.
You know, great minds think alike, as they say. But it's funny, you know, this idea that we have an omniscient and benevolent creator that is leading all of our faiths, and yet our faiths are so reactive as opposed to proactive. It's a strange correlation for me, but anywho.
Kind of makes a fellow wonder.
It does.
Michael, are you familiar at all with the True Love Waits movement? Have you heard of it before?
Nope.
Great. This is going to be good.
I don't know anything about. I mean, I know what a purity ring is, but other than that,
feel free not to share if you don't want to share. But did you grow up in a religious household? Okay.
Not at all. My parents, specifically my mother, were very anti-establishment in terms of religion. They wanted to practice however they saw fit, and that meant not really like telling me or showing me anything about religion.
So you could make an educated decision.
Yeah. My first time in a church was probably through the Boy Scouts when I was like, I don't know, 14.
And you're like, what the fuck is this nonsense?
Yeah. And then my first ex in high school, she was Lutheran, and they would drag me to their church. And most of the time they did Sunday school. So I would just bring like a book or something like that and read. They never expected me to teach, thank goodness. Because I'd be like, I don't fucking know. But that was pretty much my whole exposure, was just being dragged to various churches and then sitting through them during like weddings and stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be dragged places and exposed. It's bad.
Especially in a church.
Yeah, particularly with the scouts involved.
True.
Very true, very true. Sorry, I'm boring.
No, I will be very interested to hear your thoughts afterwards. I read this to Jonah, and we were raised similar, but strikingly very different. And after I finished reading it to him, he was like, why do you not go to therapy more? And I was like, that's a great question.
I think about that for all recovering religious people.
Yes.
That's probably the nicest
way. For all
way
you
I'll say
theologists out there,
recovering theologists. There you go.
We missed a really great episode for superfan Steven to join in on.
Steve.
I know. I would love to talk to him. I'm sure we have quite a bit in common.
I can assure you, he'd probably be more entertaining than I am right now.
So you will mutter something in your breath, John, but it won't be Steven anymore. It'll just be like a.
How's that?
Okay, then.
No.
All right. Well,
so you're speaking about purity.
I thought you were talking about Riley Reid for a second there, John. Sorry.
I can only come so much.
Not with that attitude. Or with that attitude. Courtney, continue, please.
So basically, this movement started when 39 teenagers stood up on stage at a church event and declared that it was God's will on their life that they stay sexually pure until marriage. This sparked other churches to follow suit, and they began to pass around these pledge cards. Basically, that pledge that I read you at the beginning is what these cards said, and then you would sign it, you would date it. Some people would hang them on the wall. It was a very kind of culty situation. To the point where there actually was a True Love Waits national display in Washington, D.C. in 1994, with 30,000 cards that were displayed on the national lawn. And that was from basically between the National Mall to the Washington Monument. So they covered the lawn in these pledge cards. There was lots of news coverage that there is a new kind of sexual revival, and the revival was to not have sex, which was obviously in direct kind of juxtaposition to the 70s, where we had kind of more of the free love movement. And I think that was pretty intentional on the part of the organizers. The sad thing being that a lot of these kids didn't really have comprehensive education and didn't really understand what they were signing. And so about 50% of the kids that signed these cards denied signing them within a year of actually doing it.
That's great. Was it 50%?
Yeah.
Huh. Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good on those.
They were like, the documentary referred to that as like anti-peer pressure, because essentially, you know, one person in the youth group's like, oh, I'm going to do this big thing. And the parents are like, great, now we don't have to worry about Billy. He's not going to be poking around, you know, everywhere.
Yeah.
And so now all of Billy's friends, we don't have to worry about them.
Until.
Just because I finished the short story and Everything's Eventual, isn't it Roman fingers or Roman hands and Russian fingers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So basically, at this point, this is where we start to see the purity rings really come into play. Essentially, you wear that on the finger that you would wear your wedding ring as a pledge to say, I am married to God until I meet my perfect God-ordained spouse. A lot of couples would actually exchange purity rings as part of their wedding ceremony, like Jonah and I did. And it's a very, like, what?
Am I getting too far ahead by asking, didn't parents buy them for their kids too?
Yes. So specifically, my parents went to an actual jeweler. They spent about $250 on a real gold and diamond ring.
Yeah, that's some crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
So it's essentially, it's not giving you as an individual like a actual choice. It's like what you're saying, a peer pressured, like, hey, we bought you this very expensive piece of jewelry that says that Jonah doesn't get to fuck you for a long time.
Well, so that's even the more interesting thing, is that happened when I was about 13.
Okay.
So basically you come into puberty and they slap a ring on you, and that is the expectation.
And remember, if you act on any of your urges, you're going to hell. You don't want to go to hell.
Exactly.
Do you?
Exactly. And the other kind of fucked up thing about this is they would have these events called purity balls or purity ceremonies where you would... This is so true. And this is where Jonah was like, you need to be in therapy.
Purity balls. That's
So
what I call it
you
after I
those.
shave.
It's actually called blue balling in most circles, I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys ever heard of dogs in the bathtub?
No, but I don't think I want to.
It's where you put your balls in your butthole.
Oh, I thought I had a friend that took a bath with his boxer one time and got like a fungal infection, so I thought that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
How does that have anything to do with dogs or bath? You know what?
Sorry.
I don't want to know.
It's difficult to keep the dog in the bathtub, Michael.
Oh.
They don't want to be there, or they'll do anything to get out, and it's a lot of effort to maintain.
Does it make like a popping sound? Like
Oh,
like bubbles
well.
popping when it...
So I have to admit something to you guys. I don't have big balls. So I've never been able to do this.
That's my head exploding.
However,
I have no idea. This is.
I have seen
Wouldn't it be more problematic to have big balls and try to do it? It would actually
Big
be easier to
Tanuki
do it with
energy.
little balls.
But I have seen a video of I think his name's, I don't remember his last name, but his name is Paris, and he's a porn star. And there was a video that was making the rounds on Twitter last year at some point where he literally put both of his balls in his butt and then he farted them out.
See, you have to have more elastisac than big balls in order for that to
Yeah.
happen, John. It's kind of the two are not
Wait, so
mutually exclusive.
are you trying to tell me that I have a shot?
No.
If you do your daily stretches, John.
Women have
Oh,
Kegels,
he
and I
does
just
those.
and
It'll
I just
happen
sit
for
there
you.
bat winging until I can make this happen.
Like a tanuki.
I do the Abraham Lincoln. I've actually shaved it so that it's got the beard and everything.
Oh, it's fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little top.
Anyway,
edge
you were
to it as
saying
well.
about purity balls.
It sounds way worse when you say it. Jeez.
It feels worse when I say it.
was going to say the AC/DC song about, I've got big balls is just ringing through my brain right now. I'm sure no one else on this glorious call has heard that song, but
Can
look it
confirm.
up. Kids, it's fun.
What's AC/DC? My AC is
Shut
currently
the
running
fuck
right
up,
now.
Michael.
Thunderstruck.
So basically, these events were events that you would get formally dressed up for. You would sign a very fancy certificate that had the pledge on it. Everybody's parents and grandparents would show up. I definitely didn't do one of these. But anyways,
Never.
you get presented
Bullshit.
with your purity
Damn it.
ring. It's an ordeal.
Does that count as one of the bullshits?
No, it doesn't.
No,
That was a
sarcasm.
very verbal wink,
Oh,
or they would call sarcasm.
I'm interested whether the certificate is real, though.
It is.
Oh,
Yep,
what are you, a Cabbage Patch doll?
that's right.
No, it's a TY.
Yeah, it's you use it as like a receipt for when the husband brings cattle to the father to get married, and then you hand him the certificate as a receipt.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they have the pink slip and the yellow slip of it, and they just tear off one so that your father keeps a copy of the receipt.
Oh, okay. See, I was just
Okay,
confused because my religion just has a 2-for-1 deal for those sort of
Shane,
things.
what's the joke in Mallrats? Because you have a pretty good memory of those movies. It's like, why buy the cow when you can have sex with it for free? Was that the joke in Mallrats?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Never
I'm
mind.
sorry.
Then I'm going to abandon this bit. Shane,
Oh no, no, I got it. Why buy the cow when you can get the sex?
there
for
you
free?
go.
Yes. Of course, it's a Brody
It
line.
is indeed a Brody line.
But yeah, the certificate, real deal, very authentic.
Oh,
Yep. So of course, as you can imagine, sexual purity was preached constantly in churches and youth groups once this kind of movement took off. They specifically acted as if it was the worst type of sin, even though they also preached that all sin is the same in God's eyes. But sex is the worst one. Don't forget it. Be ashamed.
Well, some sins are more equal than others.
Right, exactly.
how
Exactly.
Orwellian of you. I applaud your efforts.
And the best part about this was, and there was actually a pastor recently who was fired from his job and then sent to therapy for getting up on stage and telling, women that they should only be attractive for their husbands, and if you're not a trophy wife, like, you're failing. But basically, like, in most churches,
Whoa.
like, the pastor would get up and he'd be like, look that's my smoking hot wife, probably Deborah, because seems
Yeah, you
like
see that I slide in and out of that shit.
yeah, exactly. And then they just go on about how sex is great, it's awesome, but only if you're married. If you're not married and it's not with the secretary, it's probably not good. So you gotta wait. Which, what I love about this, they talked about this in the documentary, is literally no experience, wedding night, perfection. You don't need any practice. It's gonna go great. Don't even worry about it. That's kind of like the guarantee, 100% satisfaction.
No,
guarantee.
You are going to come.
Without any frame of reference. Yeah, it's it's the best you've ever had.
Exactly.
Well, you slide peg A into slot B, and then that's how baby is
Oh,
formed.
okay. So they're IKEA furniture now.
70% are like, this feels way more different than butt sex did.
Well, yeah, because you're still pure if you do it in the butt.
Exactly.
Loophole.
Doesn't count. Yeah.
I mean, not after you've got to clean the spackle off of yourself, but
Yeah, not all of us own bidets.
yeah. Frosted me like a fucking cake.
And how?
No, guys, bodies are shameful and we can't talk about them and we can't do the sex.
See, that was something that, not to get off the rails here, but I really loved having a discussion with, like, the bishop of my church when we would talk about masturbation being a sin. And so we played the game of, like, verbal charades. I was like, okay, so you tell me what the general option is, or the genital option, if you want to pardon the pun. So I can't have sex with anybody until I have turned like gone through my entire, semi-formidable stages, gone on a mission, and then come back home and just try to procreate like a rabbit. So I'm supposed to be letting this semen be forcibly pushed out of my body at random intervals, have no control over this, experience painful, in fact, like excruciating erections for hours on end, and I can't even check my own pressure valve. And you think I'm going to remain sane into my mid-20s and not just completely combust like a bad pipe.
And he was like, well, let me finish blowing you, and we'll...
No, the greatest is the scriptural reference I was given, and I'm going to forget what the actual chapter and verse is, but he was saying it is better to waste your seed upon the belly of a whore than to spew it upon the ground as though it has no worth. So I said, so now you're encouraging me to go with a prostitute?
What are you, Roland Deschain?
Sex worker.
I was like, this is a lot of mixed messages, Jesus, and I just don't know how to navigate this turbulent, topsy-turvy world. So, couch cushions and I are just going to have to be best friends for the next 10 to 12 years.
They actually had a pastor talk about masturbation specifically in the documentary as well. And his whole thing was like, it's fine to masturbate, you just can't lust while you're doing it. So you just stare at a blank wall, you don't think about anything, and you just rip one out.
What if...
That's what you do after marriage, not before.
Well, allow me to retort. What if instead you just stripped butt naked and you stood in front of your mirror and you stared at yourself in the eyes while you did it? You didn't...
Are you lusting after yourself?
No, I'm just looking at myself.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm just making sure I'm using the right technique.
How do you finish?
I come.
Oh.
I disagree.
I just stand there. I don't even grunt. I don't even make a sound. I'm just standing there just going...
Okay.
Just
Business
nodding.
Yeah, just nodding. And then I'm like...
Okay.
I'm done.
Cool.
Ghost cock.
If it makes a sound like that, you should probably get it checked.
No, it's fine.
It hasn't fallen off yet.
Thank you.
Well, let me share with you some scare tactics that will definitely turn you off from, masturbating or sleeping around, because this will really fuck you up as a
Try
child.
your best.
I beg to differ.
So basically some churches would... Where's he going?
Hell.
I think he's going to go masturbate.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I want to turn the lights down. I'm trying to make it sexy.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, good. So some churches would pass out like roses and fresh roses and give them to each girl in the youth group, and they would tell you to crumple it up in your hands.
Oh, yeah.
And then they would say,
Oh, that's way different than I thought.
that basically the flower now represents what you would look like to your future husband if you had sex with anyone else before him. So you could have been a perfectly good flower, but now you're just a crumpled up one.
What a super healthy way to give positivity and autonomy to women.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was going to be something like you're going to make your husband's hands bleed.
All right, so Michael's in jail for the rest of the
Roses
episode.
have thorns. What
Okay.
The petals, Michael.
Didn't know he was a poison
Whenever
fan.
I've gotten a
Yeah, jeez. Another metaphor that would be used quite often was they would give everybody a stick of gum, and they would tell you to chew the gum and then spit it back out, and they would ask you, would you give this to somebody else? And obviously, the correct answer is no, Shane.
But all the best people in your friend circle were like, spit it into my fucking mouth while you chug.
I was like, yeah, the number of people that I've spit inside of were on too.
And her face was turning purple, and I was like, am I going to have to call the fucking ambulance? And then she came, and we were done.
And that's why I call her mom.
Linda, no.
No.
Linda, listen.
No, Linda, don't
Linda,
listen.
honey.
Stay home. Don't go to Shane's house. Not again.
Okay,
Why
guys.
are you taking those rosary beads? They smell real weird.
Our Father who art in Shane's butthole.
Hallowed be thy name.
Well, the
I
point
quit,
you were
I'm sorry.
supposed to make was that now the gum is used in damaged goods.
I have a name.
Yeah, well, There you go.
But
Yeah, well, if you also leave it in the package for too long, it goes stale and hard and you can't chew it.
Exactly. I know people like that. That is a
What's
true
the alternative?
fact.
they call those
throw it
repressed
away.
assholes.
Also has no flavor.
True.
Yeah.
This metaphor is essentially so popularized that Durex, the condom company, launched a campaign in 2019 called You Are Not Chewed Gum, which promoted science-based comprehensive sex education in public schools.
Is that bullshit?
No,
Okay, good.
that did exist. Is there a specific part that you want to call bullshit on?
The condom company? Like it being a campaign from a condom company.
That's true.
Okay.
But I will.
that
You're getting really close. It's a different condom company.
Oh, is it Trojan?
Of
It's
course.
Trojan. Yeah.
Yeah, who there's other well, wait.
Don't
Yeah, I
don't
don't
you
know.
disparage Durex. I got to hand those out to spring breakers in Havasu.
So yeah, it wasn't Durex. It was Trojan that put together this campaign. And you might be asking yourself, why do we need comprehensive science-based sex education in schools?
Why do we need
Let me tell ya.
comprehensive science-based comprehension in schools?
Yeah.
Why do we need schools?
Why do we need schools? What is
Shit.
science? I don't know.
John, you're
Let the Lord teach you everything you need to
you're
know.
a shitty parrot.
I really am.
Watkins.
I felt myself lose it, and I was like, I'm still gonna finish. It's still good for me.
It's 11.
Rah.
So according to the Guttmacher Institute, 10 states, and then including Washington, D.C., require that only abstinence-only sex ed be taught in public high schools. 29 other states require that abstinence only be stressed with the sex ed curricula, and just 17 states require medically accurate sex ed be taught in public schools. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report released in October, STI transmission rates for syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia have hit an all-time high in the U.S., and they credit public education to be one of the biggest problems.
Number one. Probably. Probably not.
They said.
Number one and number two.
Man, we really know how to fuck things up, don't we?
Yeah?
I love the irony of anti-abortion, but also anti-sex education, and just how nobody understands that those things are very much related.
But the Lord can cure
anti-everything.
you of your lust.
Yeah.
Just eat some saltines and don't
Whenever
worry
I'm
about
feeling
it.
uncontrollably horny, all I need to do is read some scripture, and I feel better.
Yes,
Because that helps you come.
There's some.
but not the erotic novel in the middle of the Bible. Skip that
No.
one.
I stick to strictly Old Testament.
Oh,
Oh man, I'd be breaking it off in Bath's wife.
Ooh.
Dropping loads.
oh man.
I think Deuteronomy does it for me. That's the one where it's this person begat this person begat this
No,
person.
numbers
It's actually
would really
pronounced
do it for
begot.
you, Michael.
Oh, damn
I
it.
was gonna say,
Begot.
I dude Heronomy.
Aw, yeah. Deuteronomy damn
And on
well
today's
killed her.
most problematically religious episode,
Oh, today's the one.
That's why you guys brought me on, right?
we tackle the hard topics.
Hard.
So anyways, there were a lot of books published for us young teens to absorb and give long-lasting emotional and spiritual trauma over. This includes books that were entitled such as And the Bride Wore White, Undefiled, Sexual Detox, and many others.
Like Twilight.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely.
Yeah, they saved themselves from
Yep.
marriage, right?
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Sexual Detox is our next album record, by the way. This album
Noted.
title.
Perfect. A lot of these books were geared more towards girls, but boys, of course, did not get out of the purity movement unscathed. With girls, a lot of the pressure that was put on us was that it was our jobs to keep the boys out of the gutter. It was our responsibility. Their sexuality was our problem. Boys only had to worry about not watching porn. That was the only thing that mattered. And I asked Jonah, I was like, what do you remember about like what you were taught in church about, like purity culture? Because my frame of reference as a woman was everything is my fault. My body's bad. I'm the problem. And this is an exact quote from him. If you look at porn, you'll never be able to love anyone the right way. So yeah, that's why I don't love you right. Also, don't touch your pee-pee because that is a no-no.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comprehensive sex ed, everybody.
Why is my pee-pee hard?
He, she, me, pee-pee hard.
Yes.
I was like, meanwhile, John's sexting with his mom over here. So.
Oh, no, sorry. That was a scheduling thing.
Oh, scheduling.
Oh, are you
sexting
busy?
with
Sorry,
your-
we can come back and do this later.
Yeah, would we? Could we do that?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just
please.
just shut
I'm
it
gonna hit
down.
delete on this episode, and we'll just we'll start
Oh,
over
good,
next week.
good. That's not too much time.
Yeah.
Jeez, I didn't realize I was bombing so bad.
No, you're not.
I was
me.
gonna say half of this room is actually functionally dead right now,
Yeah.
and then there's Michael.
I'm having a lot of fun
I'm
with the
always dead.
purity discussion.
Oh, it's great. No, it is great.
It's not the
just my
topic.
migraine
I was
is-
gonna say,
Yeah.
no. Michael and I are just dead zones here, so it's difficult to be funny when you're intrinsically not.
Courtney is just us sexually repressed people. You know, we just
That's why I thought this would be an enlightening topic.
It is. I swear. It's just the ice pick going through my skull.
Are you still not feeling better?
No.
Have you
I'm
have
not.
you tried unplugging?
If only I could.
Uh,
I can apply directly to the forehead. But no, ignore my pain and suffering.
I usually try
unless
to.
it gets you off, in which case embrace it. But continue, Courtney.
I can skip to the end and make this real short.
No.
Please
No. Don't.
Okay.
Don't.
I only have like 4 more
Please don't.
paragraphs.
So, Michael, you're going to have to do a very good job this week.
Oh, yes. Oh, I know. I'm going to remove all my bitching about ice
Cool.
picks and all that stuff. No one wants to hear that.
Thank you.
I won't.
I would say no one wants to hear anything that I've said this entire show. So if you're going to edit that wholesale, you might as
Fine.
well just start with Courtney speaking and keep it that way. And
We'll just cut everything except for Courtney talking.
this
Done.
episode entitled "Girl Interrupted."
That would be really funny because then she would be like interacting with things that we have said, but we're not on the episode at all. So it's just a hyper cut of Courtney, like literally only Courtney and Michael can like really fine tune it. So like there's no pauses, no breaks or anything. Just like, yeah. So anyway, there's this purity ring, the purity balls. That's gross.
She would seem like she was just laughing at all these invisible jokes.
Oh, no.
I wanted to keep the prolonged silences. Actually, I think that would be beautiful.
That would be great.
You were saying.
I like it. So
John went Uncle Roger on us and threw his leg up on the chair.
That's not
yeah.
Oh,
okay.
Oh, no.
Basically, one of the books that was credited to the most pushing of the purity culture agenda was a book on courtship called Dating is of the Devil by Joshua Harris. He was 21 years old and a formerly homeschooled kid when he wrote this book. So clearly, 21 years old, had life figured out. And what he had figured out was courting was the only way to meet your future spouse. And if you kissed before your wedding day, you're going to hell.
Checks out.
In 2019, the same author, Joshua Harris, released a documentary of him going around and talking to people who had grown up with his book. And a lot of them told him, yeah, it kind of fucked me up, dude. And he was like, yeah, I know. I've totally changed my stance on that, and I'm really sorry. Which was really neat. I've actually watched the documentary. He's a really cool dude. He talks a lot on a couple of the podcasts I listened to, and he has done a full 180 on his beliefs.
Does he get royalties from that book that he donates? Hopefully.
So he actually took it out of print. So they no longer print that book. He was like, yeah, this is not
But there
not what I'm trying to be about.
there are still assholes out there that find copies of that book.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Or it's in PDF form. They're like, don't let the libs take you down. Here's a free PDF.
Yep. So yeah, basically he was like, yeah, actually this was really harmful and I'm really sorry. And he actually recently wrote the foreword to a book that actually details some of the trauma that somebody went through because of his book, which is really interesting.
And all this is traced back to the fact that he was actually homeschooled.
Exactly.
That's the real lesson, kids.
It all comes back to that.
Yep.
And that is not made up.
No, he was really homeschooled.
Okay, all right.
Did he actually turn a new leaf?
No small wonder.
He did. Yeah, it's really interesting. We don't see that a whole lot in the
Ever?
homeschool community. Courtship was really big when I was growing up in the more conservative groups. I didn't wear a denim dress growing up, so I wasn't considered part of the more conservative group. But I definitely knew people that were very courtship-minded.
So I have to ask, how important was ChristianSingles.com in all this?
Or singles or mingles, are they the same thing? Shane?
Do we have a sponsor I wasn't aware of? Or
Today's episode is brought to you by ChristianMingle.com. Christian Mingle, where the single Christians go to mingle.
Yeah.
And Farmers Only. But that's a later ad.
I feel like that's more of a Trump dating site at this point, to be honest.
Oh, I
More like
bet.
dickandblender.com.
At this point, though, dating sites were not really popular. I mean, this is still, like, this movement really got its start in, like, the early 90s, 80s, 90s. So we haven't moved quite into the technological
Gotcha.
era of online dating. But a lot of times parents would have a lot to say. It would come across as courting, but it was more like arranged marriage. Basically, a lot of these books, including the one by Joshua Harris, were geared towards, like I said, girls 12 years old until married, because you got to stay pure until you're married. That's the rules. They basically taught that virginity was the only thing of value that girls had. Sexual abuse and premarital sex are the same thing. Women shouldn't have sexual desires and should be ashamed of their bodies. Christians really love putting shame on people, so naturally using sex to control the lives of people and to put shame on them was like really working out very good, and it was a very controlling movement. But of course, as we know, sex is just a very natural part of life, and so they were just using it as propaganda to take advantage of people.
Sounds about right.
So that's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I had talked to Jonah about, I was like, how do you think purity culture affects pop culture today? And he's like, I don't see a correlation. And I was like, buddy, just you wait. And so we were talking about Lil Nas X, because his recent video, Montero, that we spent a lot of time talking about, it very much plays to religious shame and this idea of basically retaking hell, which is where he's told he's going to be going his whole life. And so that actually feeds into the purity culture narrative of, if you're gay, you're not pure, you're going to hell, you got to stop that. Another thing that we see purity culture kind of has a hand in is actually the body positivity movement. So essentially, because of the shame that's been taught, especially to girls and women, now their way of kind of reclaiming that is by trying to push a more inclusive bodily image, because your body is not just for your husband to use and abuse once you get married. This also leads us into, so everybody's familiar with the Me Too movement?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So there's actually a hashtag Church Too movement, which is really interesting.
What?
So Twitter has been flooded with stories of abuse that has happened within churches.
Oh.
And
Oh, okay. I was thinking
like
that
a
was,
sinister thing, like, or
completely
that is sinister, but I mean like
Yeah.
sinister in the way of like churches being like, come back to church.
oh,
like a reaction to
No.
the
yeah.
to as
Never mind.
opposed
No,
to-
so it's a hyper specific look into abuse in church.
exactly. And especially dealing with, so you already have the stigma of coming out as a survivor of abuse, sexual abuse, and then to have the religious aspect on top of that because it happened within a church, your likelihood of being just not believed is so much higher, because there's no way this could happen in this group of people. This would never happen in our church. And so a lot of the survivors of those types of abuses are even less likely to come forward.
That's really fucking sad.
has anybody seen Devil All the Time or Hell All the Time? I think it's Devil All the Time.
No.
Okay, it's on Netflix, and it stars Robert Pattinson and Spider-Man's own Tom Holland. A lot of really sort of bravura performances from a lot of great actors, including, which Skarsgård is it that played Pennywise? But he actually plays Tom Holland's father. Long story short, too late, Pattinson plays a pastor who arrives in town and then proceeds to seduce all of the local girls by, whipping the God rhetoric. And this is how we're close to each other through God, is we join ourselves. So, and naturally, no one's going to believe the young women that he's being manipulative, because he's a very charismatic preacher that everybody loves, and he spreads the word of God, amongst other things. And, very interesting film, but it has a lot of varying shades and gradients, and is kind of a very bizarre study in sexuality as well. So something worth checking out as a sub category to this topic.
Okay.
Interesting. I'll definitely have to watch that. The last thing I'll say as far as recent history, a lot of the podcasts I listen to have talked a lot about this, is comparing the shootings in Georgia that happened recently to the idea that the guy who basically carried out those horrific acts, he grew up very religious, very conservative. He was taught that lust and shame and all of the features of purity culture. And so because those women fit what he fetishized, he found that it was easier to deal with his lust by annihilating them rather than dealing with himself. And so a lot of the people that I listen to have attributed purity culture and being raised, I believe his dad was a pastor, in that mindset. Yeah. Basically, you value life differently because it's all about your own shame and your own sin. So I think that's a really interesting parallel. So obviously this was a very dark topic. It's not really a fun topic.
We all have one, Michael's had like 17.
Yeah.
But I wanted to...
Sometimes these are the most interesting, depending on how we go about them. And I think that we approached it pretty interesting, pretty uniquely. I would even go far to say.
I'm glad, because I was definitely a little nervous because I know this could go in a lot of different directions. But I wanted to leave you with some of what I felt like were the most important quotes from the documentary, and I have 3. So the first one was, this one just gets me. You're worshiping God when you're having an orgasm, one pastor says.
I mean, I do yell, "Oh God," when I come.
So take that to bed with you tonight, boys.
It's like, actually, that's something that's a little bit more inclined with a pagan ritualistic mentality.
Right.
That is actually how one finds divinity, is through, the sacred feminine.
Exactly. So very progressive there.
Yeah.
This quote, this one broke my heart. So basically, one of the guys I mentioned, they focused on before, he's the grandson of the founder of the evangelical ministry Campus Crusade. Anybody who's worked at a college or gone to college may be familiar with Campus Crusade.
Right. I've seen a lot of pictures of aborted fetuses, I'll say that.
Nice.
Oh, is that the group?
Great.
Yeah, right outside of the place where everyone likes to eat.
Yeah,
that's the best place to put it.
Yep, exactly. So when the grandson of the founder came out, one of the things he was quoted as saying in the documentary, the thing he would pray as a child was, "Don't let me die before I stop being gay, because if I die before I stop being gay, I'm going to go to hell."
Ouch.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's pretty rough.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
definitely.
by pretty rough, I mean like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Exactly. And that's kind of a whole separate topic I think you could dive into between the church and the LGBTQ plus community. But that choked me up pretty good. And just, I think, realizing the damaging effects of what people have been doing and the way that they use something as natural as sex to control other people.
Yeah, it's pretty goddamn gross.
Yeah. And then lastly, and this one should at least give you a little bit of a chuckle, basically the prayer of every good Christian teen growing up was, "Dear Jesus, please don't let me die before I have sex. Please don't rapture us until I at least get to feel it."
If you're gonna take me, let me fucking just go balls deep in Cindy Woohoo real quick.
Yep.
Cindy Lou Who.
Hey, her name is real. It's there.
That's an interesting fetish I didn't know you had, John. Thank you for that.
Hey, it exists on Rule 34, baby.
Woohoo.
So yeah, that is a brief, dark overview of purity culture.
I let Shane answer that one.
Nice.
I just,
Yeah.
it's no small wonder when you start having discussions with individuals who have aged up into this whole ideology that you are exclusionist of any sort of physical activity whatsoever until you're, married, and then you can't be divorced. It's a really bizarre set of handcuffs that you throw on people's relationships, and we can't function as well-meaning and matured adults who know how to deal with situations rationally. They basically just emotionally and physically stunt people so that we're acting out juvenile arguments and weird fetishization our entire life. And then they somehow expect that this deifies us in some way. It's really psychologically baffling to me that no one expresses just how damaging this is, because we want to always try to just reconfigure, and no, there's better ways to do this. And as we get more progressive, they're trying to espouse better positions and try to help folks to have healthier relationships with one another. But even then, just like adjusting the idea of living with somebody, because you have no idea how petulant you are about, your own general rhythms and things like that until you live with another human being, be that roommate or someone you're in a relationship with. So to enter into matrimony, having never spent a day in your life just completely caught up with this person and expect everything to just thrive and grow immediately is baffling.
Truly.
So I don't understand how they expect anything to function. And it's no small wonder the divorce rate is what it is in this country when you basically set everybody up for failure.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't really have anything to add on to that because you nailed it.
Same.
Well, I have a small bow for you.
Oh, thank you. Courtney, what were the lies? Because we weren't really swinging, because when things are that dark, it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah, well, you did kind of get one with the condoms. It was Trojan, not Durex.
Kiney.
I did mention that half the population had venereal diseases. It was not nearly that many.
Oh.
It was, only a third.
Tomato, potato.
I told you that the diseases that were most prevalent were syphilis and dermaticulitis. Dermaticulitis was a disease that Drake from Drake and Josh got when when he ate like Megan's popsicle.
I mean, that's pretty sexual.
His hands and feet turned green. So yeah, that was a lie. That is not an actual disease. Even though it sounds
that's
like
a good one. I like that one.
Let's see. I told you that there were 30,000 cards on display at the National Mall. It was actually 210,000.
Good God.
So their goal in their first year was to have at least 100,000 pledges at that point.
Jeez.
Of course, they definitely exceeded that. I told you that Jonah and I exchanged purity rings at our wedding. That's not true.
Yeah, we all know you guys be fucking.
I did grow up with a purity ring. I want to say probably stopped wearing it at 16 just because I was in school and going to culinary school, and it
got
was
in the way of hand jobs.
Exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, I don't want to explain this to people. The Jonas Brothers also stopped wearing theirs, and I was like, well, if they're not doing it, I'm not doing it, because obviously I'm destined to marry one of them.
Oh, darling.
Have you seen that South Park episode, Courtney?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, so no, that's not true. Let's see. I told you that the book that really pushed courtship and the sexual purity agenda was Dating is of the Devil. That book was actually called I Kissed Dating Goodbye, and then his documentary was called I Survived I Kissed Dating Goodbye. So I wasn't sure if anyone was actually going to be familiar with Joshua Harris, which is why I changed the title.
Nice.
And that's all, folks.
I will say that the only good purity ring is the band.
I knew that was coming.
Because
That's also what she said.
Because the band Purity Ring is lovely. And somewhat sacrilegious, so it's immediately even more fun.
Sacrilegious, in fact.
Hey, so...
Well...
Oh, go ahead, Shane. I'm so sorry. I'm not
Please,
trying to stomp on your dick here. Unless you want me to.
I have to find it first.
Yeah,
I need to
someone's
learn
got it.
before
Good
my
luck.
first kiss.
You got to learn before the wedding day.
Before we get out of here, Courtney, you went on an impromptu trip. How did it go?
We got matching tattoos.
Cute.
Because that's what you do when somebody's having a crisis.
Were there any highlights to your, I don't even have a phrase for it.
There and back again?
Yeah, your impromptu, you were basically a prisoner being just carted away to San Diego in the course of a day and a half. San Diego and back.
Yeah, it's really hard when someone's like, let me drive you to a beach and put you up in a hotel room and take you to restaurants. It's really brutal. There was no crying on the beach, which was really disappointing.
Yeah.
I thought that's why we were going. So I did that alone.
As you should do.
But there were tide pools, so that was cool.
Did you cry in the tide pools?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right on a little crab.
Aw.
See, John, this is what happened when you make her feel awkward at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I had to... Well, yeah, because it was the next day, so I was a mess.
Yeah, I had to sweat it out.
Yeah. No, I did learn some things. We're currently waiting on an update to see what's going to happen with all that. But it should be coming to a head here pretty soon.
Cool. Is that going to be private, secret friend stuff, or is that going to be things that the podcast can hear?
Oh, you can find it on one of her Twitter accounts.
Yeah, come to Secret Twitter, where I expose all my life secrets. Well, basically the situation is she's either going to get the guy or she's not going to get the guy, and we're just waiting to find out who's going to get the guy.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to be like Darkest Timeline.
Yeah.
She's waiting to see if she's got to get rid of their kid.
Yeah. Especially after this episode, my head is definitely in like the things are
Yeah, I'm glad you and I
evil.
both went to doom spawning immediately.
Which is why I asked, is that something that's going to be able to be shared? Is it going to be podcast hushy kind of stuff? Or
Yeah.
Okay, well...
Oh, no, her purity ring is fully intact still. I am the only person... I am basically the spiritual black sheep of my family.
Oh, join the club.
Well, I mean, Kristen as well, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, the one who
Kristen and I are kind of like a team.
as a hooer.
We take turns fucking Becky.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
That's
I imagine Becky prefers...
It's not a joke.
If the shoe fits.
It's not.
It's a joke.
I just wish one of you could do it right.
So does Becky.
I'm sure. She feels like the weirdest pair of finger cuffs in the whole of human history.
She's like, they never told me that purgatory could be so close to hell.
Or that would smell so weird.
Well, I don't know if I'm team get the guy or team fuck the guy, but not literally, but like fuck off, like get out of here, guy.
Yeah. Well, Jonah's team fuck off to the guy, so
like guy goes fuck. Yeah, because I think it's kind of shitty to toy with anybody's emotions for that amount of time.
Yeah. It's not good. But what I did learn on our trip, because we spent a little bit of time in the sun, is I have developed an allergy to UV rays.
Okay.
So I can't be outside anymore. So at least we learned that.
Well,
the drama in her life, like, we'll get there, but it's more about me
welcome
anyway.
to the nightlife, baby.
That's right.
So welcome to the podcast where we're waiting for Courtney to curl up like burnt paper.
Yeah, are we starting a death pool or for the four of us?
Oh, you should. I told Jonah today he needs to get a life insurance policy on me before they won't approve it because I'm just dying too much.
Yeah, well,
this is like a Nicholas Sparks novel from hell right now.
Well, you may have a death pool in the works, but your fresh fade looks rather lovely.
I did it myself, and I gave myself a bob patch, so I'm really hoping it grows out before your guys' show.
It looks great.
I used the wrong guard because I didn't know what the numbers meant.
Yeah,
I guess they mean something. And so there's like a little bald patch right here where I got a little too close.
I like it.
Girl, you should have just called me. I've been doing that shit for years.
Yeah, make Jonah watch.
We talked about that last week. We're not. That's not happening.
Which, by the way, I was talking to.
Oh God! Don't start getting further down.
No. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave on this note that I talked to Jonah today. Like we caught up real briefly, and I found out that he's gonna be changing career paths, and now I officially get to refer to him as my fried chicken daddy.
That's true.
So I'm excited for.
We're very excited.
I'm excited for Jonah, in the changes that he's making, and may all of his chicken be fried, and may all of his French fries be nice.
So
It'll
what you're
never
saying
be
is,
as good as mine, but
Right.
we'll let it happen.
I didn't realize my Colonel Sanders episode had such an impact.
See, we
It
enact
was
change.
a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you see the photo for the Instagram
Sure did.
post?
I did.
It makes a lot more sense
I
now.
sent him on a spiritual journey now for, herbs and spices and hatred. When he starts
Exactly.
beating you, it's not my fault. He's just, channeling his inner Harland.
I mean, if he ever starts listening to this episode, or these episodes, it will be your fault. So
If he ever starts listening to the show, I feel like that's a bigger call for help. Like if Becky ever comes up and she's like, "I loved your episode from this week," I'll be like, Are we okay? Is everything fine?
Yeah, if she's referring to this week, you need to get her serious help. And that's my fault. It has nothing to do with your glorious topic, Courtney. You were marvelous, and I applaud your efforts in spite of the albatross and anchor that we hung on both your legs and neck right out of the gate.
I feel like
just
you're.
the way I like it.
I feel like you're dyed in the wool now. I feel like you've passed the test.
What do you mean test? There was a test?
You passed it,
Yeah,
so it
it's
doesn't
for
matter.
syphilis.
Anyway, I'm going to make this church organ music for you. I'm going to look up
Yes.
the chords so that your intro's there. Michael's going to have so much fun editing this episode. I can't wait. I will actually listen to your proof this week. That is not a
Bullshit.
lie. I will listen.
I think this is the week you get to edit the show, John.
Yeah.
I do not want that responsibility. I tried it once,
Well,
and Michael's like,
You didn't take enough silence out.
Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds like me.
kill me.
Okay, well,
Ah, you didn't take out enough silence. You should have switched everything. Why did I switched the accent completely?
All right, Shane, take the purity
Shane,
ring off
go.
this podcast.
so for all of
Please.
you masochists out there that just can't help but want to prolong the pain, we have social networks that you should follow. You can find us on Facebook.com/disinformedpodcast, over at the Twitter @disinformedpod, and of course, the ever-popular and increasingly swelling numbers on Instagram @Disinformed Podcast. Also, we have shows on the Tubes of You airing on Wednesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And you can enjoy us talking about a bunch of fabled fan fiction and, of course, let Chuck Klosterman ruin our lives 20 minutes at a time. We appreciate all of you joining us for an episode where Michael is tearing up like a grandmother at a fucking wedding where a purity ring is involved, where John is texting like he's trying to get laid on Tinder, and Courtney can't wait to stop looking at my face. So, for all of our fantastic co-hosts this week, and the Disinformed Podcast proper, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
I'm Michael.
I'm Courtney.
So long and good night.